The DNA test that ended my marriage and proved my husband wrong. I've been married to my husband Chris for 8 years, together for 12. We met in college, back when everything felt limitless and easy. I was studying psychology, he was in finance, and we used to stay up until 3 a.m. talking about the future. He made me laugh constantly, that kind of charismatic guy who makes waiters remember his name and gets free drinks at bars. We got married 2 years after graduation, and not long after, we had Ethan, 6M, our little boy. He's full of energy and questions and weird dinosaur facts. He's got my nose, Chris's laugh, and a stubborn streak that could level mountains. He's the kind of kid who insists on wearing socks that match the day of the week. He's also the light of my life. Chris used to feel that way too, or he acted like it. I remember him crying the day Ethan was born. That moment when he held him and whispered, "We made a person." He was a hands-on dad at first. Diapers, bottles, and lullabies. He made pancakes on Saturdays. He built forts in the living room. He used to kiss me on the forehead while I folded laundry and say, "Look at our life." So you can imagine how jarring it was when, about a month ago, everything shifted. Chris came home from work one night and barely looked at me. No kiss, no hey babe, nothing. He gave Ethan a distracted pat on the head, made himself a sandwich, and sat in silence watching sports. No commentary, no yelling at the ref, just silence. I figured maybe something at work had gone sideways. He works at a mid-sized investment firm, and sometimes those quarterly review periods are brutal. I didn't push. I gave him a beer and rubbed his shoulders. He said he was just tired, so I left it. But over the next few days, the distance grew. He started going to bed later than me, or claiming he had late calls. He forgot our weekly movie night. He left early in the mornings, saying he had to beat traffic. He started avoiding eye contact. I kept trying to reach him. I asked if he was okay, if he needed space. He said, "I'm fine," every time. That was it. No elaboration, no warmth. Then came the blow-up. We were arguing about the trash. Seriously, the trash. He had forgotten to take it out for the 3rd time that week, and I was exhausted after a long day juggling work, and Ethan's school Zooms. He had strep, so he was home with me. I said, "Chris, can you please just remember to help out?" And he snapped. Maybe if I was sure Ethan was even mine, I'd feel more motivated to be around here. Everything stopped. Time. Sound. I thought I misheard him. "What did you just say?" He stared at me, eyes hard. "You heard me." I was stunned. Genuinely stunned. I said, "Are you seriously accusing me of cheating?" He shrugged. "I'm just saying. 2 blue-eyed parents don't have a brown-eyed kid. That's not even true. My grandmother had brown eyes. Genetics aren't that simple, and he knows that. He's not stupid. When I asked him where this was coming from, he said some of his coworkers had joked about it, that they noticed the eyes and did the math. I asked him if he believed them, and he said, "I've had doubts for a while." I was shaking. I told him he could sleep in the guest room until he figured out if he trusted me or not. That night, I lay in bed replaying the conversation, and the more I thought about it, the more something felt off. Not about Ethan's paternity. I've never cheated. Not once, not emotionally, not physically. But about Chris, his coldness, his sudden suspicion, the way he turned on me like a switch flipped. That's when the thought hit me. Is he projecting? And that's when I did something I'm not proud of. The next morning, I ordered a DNA test online. I waited until Ethan was asleep, swabbed his cheek, and mailed it in. It felt disgusting, like I was violating my son's trust. But I wasn't trying to find out if he was Chris's. I needed to understand why. Chris was acting the way he was. If he was testing me, I was going to test him back. 2 weeks passed. Chris continued acting weird by avoiding me, spending even less time with Ethan. It was like he was preparing himself for something. Then the results came in. Chris is the father. 99.99%. I printed the results, sealed them in an envelope, and left them on his nightstand. I didn't say anything, just walked away. He didn't mention it for 3 days. Then, one morning as he poured coffee, he said, "Okay, I was wrong." That was it. No apology, no regret. No "sorry for doubting you" or "I can't believe I questioned Ethan." Just a cold, disinterested "okay." And then somehow he got angry. He said I violated his rights as a parent by testing Ethan without his knowledge, that it was sneaky, invasive, and guilty behavior. I couldn't believe it. I said, "You accused me of something vile, and I proved you wrong. You don't get to play victim now." He didn't respond. He packed a bag and went to a hotel for 2 nights. When he came back, He acted like nothing happened. But something had. Something big. He stopped touching me. Barely spoke. Didn't initiate any physical affection, which was weird because Chris had always been a very affectionate partner. Now, he acted like I was furniture, something to avoid bumping into. He worked late, missed dinner, missed bedtime. I kept telling myself it was just fallout from the fight from the test, but deep down I knew better. I started looking for signs. Opened his laptop. Nothing. His work phone was locked. His personal phone was always glued to him. That wasn't like him either. And then I remembered Ethan's iPad. We'd linked it to our family iCloud account so he could share apps. Chris had never bothered disabling the sync. That's where I found the messages. When I opened the Messages app on Ethan's iPad, my heart was pounding so hard I thought it would burst. I don't even know what I expected, maybe some weird work banter or texts with friends that would somehow explain his distance. But it wasn't that. Not even close. There she was. AJ. The contact photo was blank. Just a default gray circle. But the content of their messages? Anything but neutral. I scrolled. And scrolled. And scrolled. Hundreds of texts. Some of them were so flirty I felt physically nauseous. Compliments, dirty jokes, pet names, emojis, photos some of her in bed, others clearly taken at work. There were even voice notes, where she giggled and called him honey and babe. And Chris, he ate it all up. Every message was reciprocated. One exchange hit like a gut punch. AJ said, I wish I could wake up next to you instead of her. Chris said one day. I promise, soon. There was no ambiguity, no emotional affair defense. This was physical, ongoing, and deep. One picture showed the two of them at a rooftop bar. I zoomed in on the date. It was the night he told me he was working late with clients. I remember that night. Ethan had fallen asleep in my lap while we watched Finding Nemo. I had texted Chris a photo of it, saying, we miss you. No response. He was with her. The text went back 10 months. Almost a full year of deception, lies, gaslighting. I read through every message. Every miss you. Every wish you were here. Every lie he told her about how I was cold and controlling and made him feel like a paycheck. He said I had changed after we had Ethan, that I was obsessed with being a mom and forgot how to be a wife. He even told her that we hadn't slept together in over a year. It wasn't true. We were intimate 6 weeks ago. I remember because he called it maintenance, like I was a chore. I stared at the screen until the letters blurred. I couldn't cry. I couldn't scream. I couldn't move. When Chris came home that night, I didn't wait. I held up the iPad and said, so this is what you've been doing instead of being a father? His face went pale. He reached for it and I stepped back. I read everything, Chris, every single message. At first, he tried to lie. Said it was just flirting, that it was harmless, that they never met in person. So I pulled up the photo of the rooftop bar. His face crumbled. Then he said the words, I will never forget. It didn't mean anything. I didn't plan it. It just happened. The worst part? He meant it. Like it was a storm he walked into by accident. Like it wasn't a choice he made. Day after day for 10 months. I asked him why. I wanted to hear the actual reason. The logic. The justification. He said, I felt invisible. You're always focused on Ethan. You treat me like I'm just another task. I almost laughed. Oh, I'm sorry. Did my devotion to our child get in the way of your physical needs? He had the nerve to say, I'm not blaming you. I'm just saying, I didn't feel like a priority. I kicked him out. Right then and there. He went to stay at his brother's place. Ethan asked why Daddy wasn't home. I told him the truth, not the whole truth, but a version a 6-year-old could digest. Daddy and I are taking some space. Grown-up stuff. You didn't do anything wrong. Ethan cried. Of course he did. He's 6. He doesn't understand betrayal or adultery or manipulation. He just knows his daddy isn't here to make pancakes on Saturday. That night, Chris texted me. I made a mistake. AJ meant nothing. I want my family back. I didn't reply. I slept on the couch with Ethan snoring softly beside me. The next week was a blur. I contacted a divorce lawyer. I changed all our joint passwords. Froze our shared credit card. Told the school to alert me if Chris ever tried to pick Ethan up unannounced. And then he showed up. 2 days after ghosting me, Chris came to the house. Said he missed Ethan. I said, you can take him to the park for 1 hour. I'll be watching from the bench. He brought gifts like a box of Legos, chocolate, even a giant teddy bear. It felt like a bribe, like he was trying to buy his way back into Ethan's good graces. Then he asked to talk privately. I told Ethan to play quietly in the living room and followed Chris into the kitchen. He looked horrible, unshaven, pale, and had a bag under his eyes. For a split second, I felt a twinge of pity. Then he opened his mouth. AJ is pregnant. My knees buckled. He rushed to clarify. She said it's mine, but I don't know for sure. She's only 8 weeks pregnant and refuses to get a test until after the baby's born. I stared at him. Then I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was poetic. How's it feel? I asked. Not knowing if the baby's yours? He flinched. That's not fair. Oh, fair? Is that what we're doing now? He had the audacity to say he still wanted to fix things with me. Said AJ was a mistake. That he wanted to come home. That he wanted us to go to therapy. I asked him if he wanted to raise a child with AJ. He said, no, I don't want her in my life. I made a terrible mistake. I just want to be a father to Ethan. I said, then be a father. But you're not going to be my husband. He cried, like actual sobs. Said I was destroying our family. Said I was being vindictive. That I was going to alienate Ethan. I told him I had already contacted a lawyer and was seeking full custody. That's when he said the most terrifying thing of all. If you take him away from me, I don't know if I want to live anymore. My stomach dropped, because for a moment, I believed him. I told him to leave, immediately, that I would be informing my lawyer about the threat, and that, if he showed up unannounced again, I would call the police. He left, slowly, like a ghost. I sat on the kitchen floor for 10 minutes before I remembered Ethan was still building his Lego castle in the other room. The silence after Chris left was suffocating. I sat with Ethan in my lap, tears quietly slipping down both our cheeks. My heart felt shattered, and yet, beneath the pain, a small spark of resolve was starting to grow. I couldn't let Chris's mistakes define me or our son. Days later, while scrolling through my Instagram, I got a message request from an unfamiliar account. It was AJ. I stared at the screen. My stomach flipped. My fingers hesitated, but I opened it. Her message was long and raw. I'm done being lied to. You deserve the truth. She told me Chris had lied to both of us. She said Chris told her I cheated on him. That's why he left the house. That he felt trapped in a loveless marriage, and that he wanted to be a father to AJ's baby but keep Ethan in the picture too. She said she believed him for months. But when she read my post, yes, she found it, she finally saw through the lies. She admitted the pregnancy was real, but she had an abortion last week. She said she never wanted to keep the baby. She said Chris begged her not to tell me that the pregnancy was a wake-up call, a manipulation tactic to make me take him seriously and stop the divorce. I stared at the screen. Rage, disbelief, and sorrow, all tangled. He had used a fake custody scare to try and keep me tied to him. I showed the messages to my lawyer. AJ agreed to testify if needed. I told Chris through my attorney I wanted no contact, full custody, and a clean break. Ethan was oblivious to most of it, as much as a 6-year-old can be. But he could feel the tension, the sadness. One night, he asked me quietly as I tucked him in, Mom, will Daddy come back to us? I kissed his forehead. I don't know, sweetheart, but no matter what, I'll always be here. The weeks that followed were painful but healing. I moved into a small townhouse closer to my sister, who became my rock. Therapy helped me untangle the mess of betrayal and guilt. Ethan flourished. He laughed again, slept peacefully, and built endless Lego castles. Chris sent me letters at first, apologies, promises, and confessions. I read them once, then threw them away. I realized he wasn't evil, just broken, scared, and cowardly. But I'm stronger now, wiser. I trust my gut. And I won't let anyone, not even the man I loved most, make me doubt what's true. And now, I'm finally ready to move on. That's all for now. If you enjoyed it, leave a like and subscribe for more.